Welcome back, everyone. It's Chris here. Today, bringing you some Slack survival skills, as I call it. I'm assuming maybe your company has adopted Slack or your team, and maybe someone even told you, hey, we won't have to do email anymore. Yeah, that's what they always say. That's what they always say. But for one reason or another, I'm assuming you're on Slack now, so trying to make the best of it. I've been on it for many years now, and I composed a list of eight survival skills for Slack, or 8 tips. Survival skills sounds a little more clickable, maybe, but it's basically 8 tips. And you'll see I've only got 7 here because I'm back on a different computer, and I wrote the document that you're looking at. I think in the temp directory, just so I could get the ideas down because I was going to shoot the video. But long story short, the file is gone now. So I just rewrote these from memory, basically, and we're going to see how it goes. So you're missing a tip here. Maybe we'll remember as we go through them. So basically, the whole point of this is that, pardon, my dog's running around. The whole point of this is that the workplace today, especially working remote after, what's been going on the last few years, we have a lot more text-based communication, maybe even too much reliance on text-based tools. And the thing is, writing in text, if you're not a good writer or already a good communicator, having things text based is just a nightmare and a bad idea, but we're kind of stuck with it now. So got to try and make the most of it. So I'm going to try and do what I can here. And not to say I'm perfect, I'm an ordinary sinner like everyone else. It's not easy communicating in text. There's a lot of nuance in words, and there's a lot of notions and preconceived ideas. There's a lot of, it's kind of like a runaway train, right? You could use a string of words that sounds fine to you. It will just send somebody else's mind running in all kinds of directions unless you can use your words to put the right picture in their head, which is by no means easy. But we'll try here to get a few tips that might help you, I think. All right, so the first one here, I say be brief and businesslike. If a message is going to take more than 100 words, consider calling someone or set up a Google Meet or something where you can actually just kind of talk face to face, because you might have to rely on body language and voice intonation and other communication skills that are not text based, that will more accurately convey what you're trying to say. Otherwise, it's very easy to be misinterpreted. The more you write, the more opportunities simply that you will have to be misinterpreted, unless you're very careful and very specific with the words you're using. So, if something is going to take more than 100 words, consider actually maybe putting it in an email or writing a proposal, or even creating a short video. That's one nice thing that Slack does that's better than email, is you can just click a button and use your camera to start recording a video. So you can actually just appear, say what you want to say, and you can put it in a Slack thread, and that might be a better chance for you to not be misinterpreted. So consider doing that. That's rule number one there. Number two, don't create drama. Might seem like a no-brainer, but no, it's actually pretty easy. So I put an example here. Words like always and never are drama creators. So you might not realize that if you use those words and you're not intending to create drama, just using those words can create some drama in what you're saying. So the next one here, pre-compose important messages before sending them. You'll notice that Slack lets you write a draft of something. You can even send it to yourself first. That's a really good idea, because especially if you might be angry about something, or something happened that, and you start to write something kind of fiery. If you stop and send it to yourself first, with the idea that you're going to get your words just right, you may even, as I wrote here, you might sleep on it and say, well, just by writing it, I got it out of my system. I don't need to say that. I'm going to say something much more tactful, So consider pre-composing, and that kind of goes along with not creating drama as well. And don't create open-ended messages. You'll see a lot of times some people, they might write something very long and they'll put in bullet points, and it's all nice and they've laid it all out, and at the end they say thoughts. So I think if you do that, it's just very likely that the message will be ignored. And it might be something important that you're talking about, and you just didn't mention it at the right time. Because Slack, people are checking it, they're busy, they're doing other things. Because honestly, we put these text-based tools at the center of our workflows instead of having, other systems around them. What's going to happen is just people are going to check them when they're busy in the midst of other things. They'll be working on something like, oh, a Slack notification. Oh, wow, that's a long message someone wrote, and they want my thoughts on it. I don't have any thoughts on it right now, so it'll just go to the back of things. Remember, all of this communication going back and forth can easily be exchanged without any kind of structure. So if it doesn't have any kind of structure and people don't know where to put it, it's just gonna be ignored, or it's gonna go to the back of their mind, or most likely it's just going to create a lot of low level stress for people. So maybe, be kind and don't overburden people even more by having these very long messages. Try to make it more terse, more simple, break it down. Um, that was the tip that I forgot. There, you see? Okay, so tip number five, um, give options. So specifically, if you're asking someone, let's say you need some direction on a project and you're not exactly sure what to do. Don't just write it's like, "Oh, this is what I'm thinking, blah blah blah." Thoughts? Give them like options. For example, "Oh, I'm having trouble, the directions say this, or you want me to do this. Should I A, do this, or B, do that?" And usually, the person you're talking to will just say, "Oh yeah, do B," or you've given them an option. And that's also a great way to get the option that you prefer, because you can just give them all the options that would work best for you. So um, if you think about it, you're not only you're unloading some of their burden, because you're not just giving them a dump of information and wanting them to respond to you. You're saying, these are some directions that I can go. What do you think is best? And usually that would be easier for them to read that and say, yeah, that sounds like the best option, go ahead and do that. And then now you have a record that you had a communication, that things were hashed out in the right way, and everyone's going to be a lot happier, I think. So, yeah, rule number 5, give options. And in my opinion, don't let people use Slack for morale building. Everybody's stressed, and or they're working, and they're busy. You don't need to create new channels for fun things, or something that, like, if they create it themselves. If somebody says, "Oh, we're gonna have a chat for the office," the office Linux enthusiasts or whatever. So they can have a little channel, they can have fun, and they can create that. But maybe don't let your HR department create channels, because rather reach out to people individually if you're worried about people's stress or things, or you want to make sure everyone's happy. Keep things professional. Don't create a this is a gratitudes channel. Everyone come in and share your gratitudes. I, I just don't think that, while it's certainly good to do stuff like that, not all people are going to be into that when they're working. All right, and this is a big rule here. Number 7, don't try to be funny. Never try to be funny in text-based communication, or maybe at all. If you have any doubt about whether something you're going to say is going to be funny, or kind of taken in the wrong way, or maybe it sounds a bit off color, just don't try to be funny. People, this is a bigger problem in the world today. Is a lot of people think they're funnier than there are. Maybe because of shows like The Office, you see like, oh, Jim and Pam just seem like ordinary people, and they're so funny, but they actually have a team of writers writing jokes and funny situations. And don't feel bad. Like, if you're not funny, most people are not funny. So just don't don't try to do it in Slack. Don't try to do it in text. Take a step back and say, okay, I think this sounds funny. If you think it sounds funny, just use that as a cue to step back and say, no, I'm going to play it close to the vest. Think of it more as I'm going to be cool, you know, because it that's a much better way is to do less to than to try to put yourself out there and try to be funny. By all means, be social and be outgoing, but don't try to be funny. Think to yourself instead, I'm going to play it cool. I'm going to hold my cards close to the vest here. I think it'll be much better for you in the long run because you never want to be in a situation where you said something that you thought was funny at the time and it was just off, and you're going to regret that. Um, but then again, don't be afraid, to say things. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, in social situations or wherever. Like, don't feel pressure, but just be careful with jokes. Like, you leave it for the comedians. And finally, most people are just not good communicators. So consider delegating to someone who is. You might have someone on your team, someone like yours truly, maybe, who thinks about these things and has some experience with writing and can say, don't use that word. That could be taken this way. Maybe phrase it like this. Maybe you rephrase it this way. Um, and So by all means, lean on those people and their skills, or even look up a YouTube video, or there's lots of resources out there that might teach you how to improve your communication skills. But starting with a list like this, I think you're in a much better position to deal with your text based Slack, or other text based communications. Even email or text messages could benefit from something like this. So by all means, heed this advice. If you have any comments or any specific situations that are relevant to your office that you want to leave, by all means, that would be interesting if you want to do that. Or of course, as usual, if you enjoyed the video, smash the like button or do the subscribe, or share this with your people in your office who might benefit from it. And we can share all this great wealth of communication gold here. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you all next time. This video's been on my agenda for a while, so I'm glad we finally got it done. So I appreciate you watching. I'll see you all next time.